Hello and welcome to today's presentation. My name's Andrew Price. I'm with NuWave Technologies, and today I'm going to take you through a brief overview of a presentation that Dave Shields from Insider Technologies and I gave back in early September of 2020. In that presentation, Dave went into some detail about how Insider Technologies have recently deployed LightWave Server to modernize and refresh their Reflex systems monitoring solution. Uh, Today, we're going to go through a very quick overview of those slides and then get into the complete Q&A from the original session because we've had a few people ask us about that Q&A. So getting straight into things, a little bit about NuWave. We've been in business since 1999, focused on middleware and non-stop integration solutions. We've had a couple of SOAP-based products in the market for many years. And more recently, we introduced our REST-based products, being LightWave Server and LightWave Client, that we're going to talk about today. LightWave Server is server-side middleware that allows your non-stop platform and your non-stop applications to act as a REST service provider. And through LightWave Server, you can quickly and easily, and most importantly, securely expose your non-stop applications as REST services. LightWave Client is client-side middleware allowing your non-stop application to act as a REST client or a REST service consumer, if you like, whereby you can access REST services from your non-stop platform. But today we're going to be looking particularly at LightWave Server. So on the slide you can see now is a high-level architectural overview of LightWave Server. You can see the LightWave Server runs on the non-stop server. It actually runs under Guardian. There's no requirement for OSS, no requirement for any additional web server software or anything else. Over on the left-hand side, we have a variety of REST clients. Indeed, any type of REST client can be supported by LightWave Server. And those REST clients would typically send a request up to the non-stop in the form of JSON over HTTP, JSON being short for JavaScript Object Notation. That JSON request is received by LightWave Server, who transforms the request into an inter-process message that gets sent to a back-end application or back-end pathway server. And one of the keys of LightWave Server is that it formats and sends inter-process messages that are exactly what that back-end application is expecting to receive, meaning the application doesn't need to change. So the back-end application receives the IPM, processes that request, returns a reply back to LightWave Server, who transforms that back into a JSON response and sends it back to the original REST client. And as you can see, REST clients can be of a wide variety of types of device, from mobiles to web servers to any other platform in enterprise, and even voice-driven solutions like Amazon Echo type devices. LightWave Server use cases are wide and varied. Some of the typical use cases we see our customers deploying are listed on the screen now. We have customers that are developing support dashboards to display non-stop application status. A number of customers moving towards API gateway usage and using LightWave Server to integrate their non-stop applications with their API gateways, such as Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Apigee. And you could develop new mobile or web applications to utilize information stored on your non-stop. And indeed, you could develop a new user interface to access your non-stop, which is exactly what Insider Technologies have done with LightWave Server and their Reflex product. So moving on to Insider slides. Insider have a large number of worldwide blue chip clients. The sorts of clients are listed on the screen. And their products, Multibatch, Centra, RTLX, provide non-stop systems and workflow management across a variety of different applications. Reflex, being their operations and service monitoring solution for the non-stop, provides 80% of the function of their competitors' products at 20% of the competitors' price. It monitors all aspects of your non-stop solution, and it's used in a number of blue chip UK banks and other financial institutions, and it supports a number of financial applications as well, as listed on the screen. So when we started talking with Insider Technologies, their current Reflex user interface was looking a little dated, a little stale. It used old MFC technology and an old IDE as well, meaning that maintenance and development costs were going through the roof. And their new developers were coming on board and weren't able to work with the solution because it was such old, obsolete technology. In addition to the UI, they had an older style communications approach called Fastpipe, which was a sockets-based in-house protocol that they had written themselves. It was difficult to maintain and it increased development time again anytime any fixes or enhancements were required. So it was agreed that a new approach was required, and when we started talking to them, we talked about LightWave Server, and they decided on a REST-based approach, and you can see the architecture that they've gone with here. They obtained a trial license of LightWave Server and performed a proof of concept where the product did everything that they needed. It proved to be robust and stable, and they particularly like the fact that LightWave Server opens the DDLs directly from the nonstop. The DDLs being the format of these inter-process messages that their back-end Reflex pathway servers were expecting to receive. And they also really like the fact that either their Windows or their nonstop developers could work with LightWave Server. Once they'd implemented LightWave Server, they very quickly moved on to overhauling the Reflex user interfaces. And we've got a few screens here showing some of the new modernized look and feel of the new UI. So here we can see a variety of different nodes being captured and presented. And then you can drill down into certain areas for more information using the traffic light type approach. Bespoke configuration for specific types of users is possible, and customizable views depending on the type of non-stop user or the sorts of information they need to see are also possible. And here's the status monitor and the MQ 8.1 monitor. And here's showing how you can get into the detail of an MQQ. So the new UI provides all of the performance metrics you would expect and is now able to display that information in the form of new formatted graphs, as you can see on the screen here. So in conclusion, I think it's fair to say Insight has been very, very happy with the LightWave Server deployment. It's proved to be reliable and easy to use, and it saved them several months of coding, which is probably one of the key points. So I'm going to leave this contact information up on the screen here, and then I'm going to hand over to Gabrielle with the Q&A from our recent session. Gabrielle?
Okay, and now we'll take some questions. So let's see what we have. The first one is for the Insider guys, and it's, why did you decide to go with a REST-based solution?
Okay, I know Scott Davis is on the call. He's one of our senior product managers for Nonstop and Windows. From my point of view, as Scott is well aware, we've had maintenance problems with our client server protocol called Fastpipe, and that's utilized through multiple products within Insider Technologies. And to keep that maintained for a broad range of products has been proved to be troublesome, and it's taken a long time to maintain and keep it up to speed. So I think I'll let Scott answer that question, because Scott is our developer of the new user interface, and he's one of our key experts on Fastpipe. So he knows all the pros and cons.
Yeah, so I've had experience prior to this of REST APIs, so I knew how reliable and easy they were to use. So having set up the trial version of the LightWave server, it took literally no time at all to get an API put together and a proof of concept within a very short space of time. Once we'd done that, we'd realised that this was definitely the way to go for us. So that was kind of the main reason why we chose that route.
Okay, thank you guys. And then the next question we have is also for Insider, and it's, do you have plans to do more with your new user interface?
Yeah, my main role inside the technology is the consultant. So I liaise with the developers and the customers. And we've had this current Reflex user interface operational now for over 20 years or more. And Scott can explain, again, being the main developer for this, it's based on a lot of old technology, difficult to maintain. Plus, even though it's relied on by our customers, we find it's not a very exciting user interface to sell. We go through all these sales processes, all the bids for contracts, but when they actually see the user interface, that's where things start to fall flat. So I think, Scott, do you want to take over?
Yeah, I mean, basically, as Dave said, the current technology we were using is extremely old, using the old Microsoft MFC classes, which obviously have got security issues. They don't have many options, so configuration is very difficult. So moving towards the .NET area for our products gives us a lot more flexibility, a lot more modern interface, modern controls to use. Just makes the whole thing look a lot fresher. And customers, obviously, although it works the same underneath, like to see a nice GUI rather than some whole thing that yeah, looks very ancient, unfortunately.
And then what I demonstrated in my presentation is just a couple of components of the new Reflex user interface. The main ones are those which the customer tends to use: status monitor and dashboard performance metrics. But lying behind those presentation aspects is the configuration side. So there's work underway to convert them from the old MFC structure into the new user interface. And Scott is working next week on a new enhancement to dashboard for more performance metrics. And again, we don't use measure, we use our own SPI calls and procedure calls. So there's definitely no overhead with storage, CPU performance. We write all this in-house and we bring back the data and present it to dashboard and status monitor. And Scott's working on the next phase of dashboard to put in a lot more disk, file, and sub-volume metrics.
Okay, thank you for that. And we have another question. This one is for NuWave.
Hey.
And it's regarding LightWave server. It says, can I create the implementation if I have either the DDL expected by the server, or on the other hand, can I create the DDL if I have the Swagger or JSON defined?
Okay, great question. I'll take that one, Gabrielle. So LightWave server is really focused on the assumption that you have an existing backend server, generally Pathway, but could be another type of server, and therefore you have a DDL that describes the message format that backend application expects to see. So LightWave server will allow you to bring in DDL and produce JSON from that, or Swagger from that. LightWave client is focused the other way around, assuming that you start with the contract, the JSON or Swagger definition, and it will allow you to bring in that definition into the console, the configuration utility that we provide. From that, JSON or Swagger will produce DDL, and there's a fairly a divide between the two products based on their intended purpose. So the short answer is, with LightWave server, you can't start with the contract with the JSON or Swagger definition. You could use the two products together. So you could use LightWave client to start with JSON, bring that into the LightWave client console, generate the DDL from there, and then copy and paste that DDL into your LightWave server console and produce the JSON from that. I would say that in virtually all of our deployments, though, the functionality as it exists is typically sufficient, because customers do generally start with that backend DDL in a LightWave server implementation. But certainly, if that's something that that anyone needs more information on, they could get in contact with us, and we could help them through it.
And if you do want to get in touch with us and have any other questions, you can email info@nuwavetech.com, and we'll be sure to get back to you. All right, thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. Hope you enjoyed it, and enjoy the rest of your morning, evening, afternoon, or night.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, cheers, Andrew.